There we go.
There we go. Okay. Sorry about that. Now you can see it and our pretty logo. So the Florida Sea Certification and Recognition Program. Uh, how many of you are familiar with the certification program that we offer? So the certification program dates back to about 20 years ago. Got a thumbs up there. We started the program as a very simple offering to providers that wanted to not only elevate their operations, but they also wanted to be recognized for it. So that's why we include recognition in the title of this program. So we've continued to do that throughout the course of the last 20 years, and the program has changed over time. I'll explain a little bit about that as we go. Our agenda for the evening, I'm going to tell you about the certification program. I'm going to show you the workflow. So that's going to describe how it goes from assessors to certification leads to the certification chair, and then ultimately up to the board. That includes the reporting structure, and we'll talk about the assessor role. I'm going to save that for last because that's the most important part. That's what we're here for. Hopefully, everybody that's on this call that's not a board member is interested in being an assessor and learning about what they need to do to help with a certification program and go out and visit these providers. And then we're going to talk about the checklist that we provide. There is a criteria checklist that has 193 criteria that providers are assessed against, and we'll talk about that as well. And then the red flags and scenarios to look out for when we're out on the tours. So an overview of Florida Sea. Actually, I'm going to go over our mission first to maintain a professional code of ecotourism ethics and to encourage an awareness and stewardship of Florida's natural and cultural heritage. That's been our mission for over 20 years. This is our 25th year. So we were incorporated back in 2001, and I'm not sure what the exact date of that was, but that's something we need to celebrate. 25 years. That is really an exciting thing. But that is the mission that we adhere to. Um, Again, the program actually started back in 1998 with a group of people in Southwest Florida that got together, and they were concerned about greenwashing. Tours that call themselves eco tours, and maybe not always doing the right thing, but they also wanted to recognize the tours that were doing the right thing. So those committees formed in 1998, 1999. The organization was incorporated as Sea Southwest Florida in 2001. Uh, in 2011, we went statewide. So it's been 15 years that we've actually been operating throughout the state and working on getting more providers in different regions certified. We started the first certification program way back in 2009. We've updated it several times, including in December of 2025, just a couple months ago. And that's the program that we're working off of today. Uh, Certification is important because it helps elevate not only the tourism industry, it helps to elevate the ecotours, it helps to elevate the regions that we're in, and it helps the destination that we all live in, which may be Florida, which may be the regions, which may be if you um, narrow it down to specific locations, where we try to protect the natural ecosystem, and we can do so by certifying ecotours. And so that's what we set out to do with this certification program. Now, who is eligible? Anyone that provides a nature-based tour is eligible to go through the certification process. So it is not for us to say whether an organization is able to be certified until they go through that process. So if they do nature-based tours, then they can go through it. So there is an application process that we'll talk about in a little bit, and then the roles and the responsibilities of the providers by going through those processes. And I'll talk about the ratings and the cost as well. Now, the benefits of certification, again, when tours are certified, and this is known globally, they tend to elevate their operations. They do better practices. They are offering better services. And when operations are certified, they tend to have the ability to actually generate more revenue because people are willing to spend more for operations that have a certification label like Florida Seas. So again, eligibility, tours, attractions, and at least 50% of a tour's operations have to be nature-based, preferably more. The application process. I'm going through some of this quickly because I want to get to the assessor part of it. So if anybody has questions as I'm going through it, please jump in and stop me. But the application process now includes an online form. It's a JOT form that is basically a self-assessment. So operators uh, apply and they go through the 193 criteria. And that may seem daunting. And that has been a challenge when we present this program to people because they think 193 criteria, that's a lot. But when you go through many of those criteria, some apply to an operation, some don't. And it's actually not as arduous as it may seem. For example, we have sections for scuba, we have sections for horseback riding, for bike riding, for kayaking. And if an operation doesn't have any of those, we just eliminate those from the assessment. And so that can often take out a huge chunk of the assessment and the time. There is a non-refundable $200 application fee. So once a provider decides to go through the process, then they pay the $200. And that if they go through the process and they are approved, that certification is good for 2 years before they have to renew for another 200. Now, where we operate, so as I mentioned, in 2011, we spread across the state. We started off in Southwest Florida, in Fort Myers in particular. Today, we look at 8 different regions that we look to operate in. We have, at our peak, had 17 certified providers, and that's where they were, all spread out across the state, centered appropriately in Southwest Florida, but a few in the outer reaches, Alachua, Levy, Volusia, and Brevard. We shrunk a little bit. So during COVID, we weren't able to get out there and do some of those certifications, but we took some time. We revamped the certification process, and we are beginning to take in more applications, renewing past providers, and we are ready to bolster those numbers. And when we look at the state, this graph, and Emily, don't give me a hard time. I don't know why Martin County only doesn't show any nature-based tours, but there are about 1,200. You're going to pop on there. I know there's more than that, but there's about 1,200 nature-based tours across the state of Florida. So that is a great opportunity for us to be reaching those providers and offering our services and helping them reach the certification standards that we encourage. Our program, when we developed it back in 2009, is based off of Costa Rica and Australia's. So it's really a stringent set of standards that we offer. And today it actually meets and exceeds the Global Sustainable Tourism Council's level of certification. So we're very proud of that.
Do you mind if I ask a question real quick?
Sure.
Where did the data come for that last map with the 1,200 nature-based tours? Where does that come from?
Where does that come from? I'm glad that you asked that because I'm proud that I assembled that list. Over the course of 2 years, I picked apart all of the counties and all of the places that offer some type of nature-based tour. And we've reached out to them over time. Most recently, just last year, when we launched our new updated certification.
Nice.
Yep. So this goes, and if you look at the map, I've got that color coded. That's based on Visit Florida's regional breakdown of counties in the state, and I've broken it down here as well. So uh, the Florida Sea Board is the overall uh, uh, entity that everybody reports to. The assessors in each region, and ideally, we'd like to have assessors for all 8 of those regions, uh, report to a certification lead. There's going to be one certification lead at least in each of the regions. They report to the certification chair. Certification chair reports to the Florida Sea Board when we're doing the certifications. Now, how that all works, we've got the certification chair. Currently, that is me. Um, we have the certification leads. We don't have any certification leads as of this moment. So, assessors can at some point graduate to become certification leads. And what they do as a certification chair, I train the assessors. That's what we're doing tonight. I also accept applications from both uh, the assessors as well as the certified providers or providers that wish to be certified. I receive the application fees, and then I coordinate with the certification lead. So when we get the certification application, I work with those leads. When they receive the application from the chair, they conduct the initial interview. So they take our certification document of 193 criteria, and they will have their own set of criteria that they take to the initial interview. So they sit down with the owner, the manager, the CEO, whomever it is that is the point of contact with Florida Sea, and they go through about 80 different criteria that can be assessed when they go to the site. So we'll just, for example, we'll just take a stand-up paddleboarding company on Lake Okeechobee, which is unrealistic, but why not? So we would go out to their site. We would review their operations. I should say the certification lead would. They would collect any documents that are required in the certification document. And they would assess as many of the criteria as they can by having that initial interview with the contact from that company. Once they have done that, and the provider and the certification lead feel like they can advance the process, then the certification lead gives the assignment to the assessor. The assessor will have roughly 100 criteria to assess. Now, again, of those 100, not all of them are going to apply for a stand-up paddleboard company. There's not going to be scuba or horseback or motorized boats. It's going to be a more streamlined operation, and there's going to be probably quite a bit fewer than 100 criteria. But in advance of going out to the tour, they would look over the criteria. They would determine which ones that they're going to be looking for when they go on the tour. So it's kind of like a secret shopper, but it's not a secret. The operator will know that we're coming, so the assessor will set that up in advance, and then they will go out to the site and they will take a tour. So in this case, they would do a stand-up paddleboarding tour on Lake Okeechobee with the alligators. So they get to see firsthand how the operation works, how the guides offer information, how they treat the idea of ecotourism and how it fits into their tour. So they're going to look at all of these criteria, and then once they've completed the tour, they're going to go through that checklist and mark yes, they met that criteria, no, they did not, or not applicable if it doesn't fit into their tour process. Now, the certification lead will collect the information that was gained from the assessor, and they will calculate the operator's score. And I'll talk about that scoring in a bit. That's not something that the assessors will have to do, but certification leads do. They then forward the material onto the chair. That would be me at this point, and then I prepare that information for the board. So if I feel like the material is such that this operator would be a pass, that they could pass, and the board of directors would vote yes, then I would bring it to them. If I feel there's a need to correct any behaviors, or if there's more material that can be collected from the operator to potentially help them get a better ranking, then we go back before we go to the vote. Does all of this make sense? So I don't see faces and everybody's muted. I'm hoping that that does make sense. If not, feel free to unmute and I can clarify. So once it goes to the board, it's a yay or a nay. If it's a no, it can go back and it can be um, uh, it can be revisited. So we can send people back to the provider and get more information if we need to. Andrea, is that your hand up?
Yeah, I have two questions.
Sure.
One, what kind of, you mentioned gathering materials or documentation from the tour operator. What kind of documentation do you primarily collect?
So for an assessor, there wouldn't be any documentation to collect. It's
Okay.
simply going to be taking the tour and uh, and I'm going to go through some of the criteria so you can see what it is that if you're an assessor, you're going to be doing. If you're a certification lead, then
Mm-hmm.
it's a little bit more. So that's where you would collect things like an emergency management plan. Um,
Okay.
things like that. There's a couple different examples of that, but that's discussed at the initial meeting with the provider, with a certification lead, and the provider provides that, or they get that together and they give that to the lead.
Okay, perfect. Thanks.
Did you have a second question, or did I get both?
Um, I had another one, but I forgot what it was, so I will come back to you if I
Okay,
remember.
no problem. All right. So in summary, the certification process, the provider goes online, they submit their application. Um, it it should take 60 days or less for the certification lead to do the review and go to the provider and discuss the next steps. Within 120 days, the assessor should have gone to the provider and taken the tour. And then the final review happens in between 120, 180 days. If there's a need to go back and reassess any portion of that, then we try to get that done and have the whole thing done within 180 days. Make sense? Okay. The ratings. So when a provider is being assessed, whether by the certification lead or the assessor, there are two types of criteria, which I will show in a bit, some examples. There are core criteria, and you either must have a yes on that or it has to be a non-applicable. So your tour is nature-based. That has to be yes or no. So if it's a no, then that's an automatic disqualification. Now, there can be remediation if somebody gets a no on a core question, they can fix it. But then the others are bonuses. So about half and half are core, half are bonus. And depending on the number of bonuses that a tour provider achieves, that determines the level that they are going to get. So we have four different levels. We have bronze, silver, gold, and platinum. So for example, if 50 of the criteria are applicable and a provider gets 40, that's 80%, and they would get a gold certification. So anything up to 49% is bronze, 50 to 74% is silver, 75 to 89% is gold, and the tough one, 90 to 100% is platinum. And there they all are. So once a provider gets the yes vote from the Florida Sea Board, then one of the benefits is they're able to use this logo on their materials, whether it's their brochure or their website or wherever that might be. The cost is $200, non-refundable. It's due when you apply and you're ready to go through the process. Now, up until just recently, we were doing anonymous assessor visits, kind of a secret shopper thing. But for the sake of transparency, and I think that this is going to work out well for a variety of reasons, now our assessors are going to arrive announced, and we'll be able to do the site visit, and it will be a complimentary tour. So that prevents the tour provider from having to pay a fee. There's no exchange of money. It's just a simple visit to the operator and taking the tour. And then if there's a need for additional site visits, again, those will be waived. They will be complimentary of the tour provider. Yes.
I remembered the other one. I think during the meeting, you had said that like I might be misremembering this, but like about 30% of the tours would be assessed. Is that right?
One third of the tours will be assessed. So if you have six distinctly different nature-based tours, then we would assess two of them.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
that is correct. So in the certification uh, packet that we have, our 48-page document, it does explain that in more depth. Yep. All right. So benefits of being an assessor. Uh, This is something, Andrea, that we can discuss because I think you just joined and maybe you paid for your membership, and we appreciate that. But if you choose to become an assessor and go through the continued training, then you get a complimentary Florida Sea individual membership. So you get to participate in assessments, you get to go on tours and enjoy that benefit. Members, whether they're individual business members, there's a variety of different memberships that Florida Sea has. You get discounts at certified operators tours. So for example, if there's a kayak tour, I believe it's 10% off. I think Wayne's Adventures is a certified tour operator. Um, Everglades area tours, 10% off. So that's a benefit that you get uh, as an individual member and as a C assessor. Continuing education opportunities. So the Florida Sea webinar series is available for everyone, but it's still a good opportunity. Professional networking with ecotourism leaders. So being part of this group of assessors. This one's abstract, but you're helping Florida's ecotourism industry by going out there, being on the front line, and helping operators improve what they offer to their customers. You're helping the industry. And you get recognition. So your name will be on our website as uh, uh, a Florida Sea assessor. What are the requirements of being an assessor? You have to complete the assessor application. It's fairly simple. Um, you have to sign a volunteer liability waiver. So you are volunteers. You are not employed by Florida Sea. You are a third party entity doing uh, assessments for Florida Sea. So uh, you would need to sign that liability waiver. You have to provide proof of auto insurance. So you will be traveling to locations. The plan is to keep assessments relatively close to where you are. So we don't want anyone driving, 5 hours to get to an assessment because that's just not sustainable. There is a conflict of interest policy, and I'm going to go through that on another slide. Complete the assessor training. So after this, I probably will take a survey. I think I will just take a survey and see how everyone feels about the training that you've received this evening. And there will be potentially a second one that will go in depth and uh, go over some of the criteria that we won't have touched on tonight. The assessor responsibilities. So obviously, when you are assigned an assessment, it is to uh, get to the provider in a timely manner, take the tour, provide the feedback to the certification lead as well in a timely manner. Evaluate objectively. Uh, there have been times when I've been asked, can this tour be certified by Florida Sea? And the answer is it's not for me to decide. It's for the process to decide. And that's the way that the certification chair, certification lead, and the assessors have to treat every provider that goes through the process. So if they feel like they can be assessed, if they've gone through the self-assessment and feel like they want to continue, then we objectively look at that and then go out on those tours and conduct the assessment. Documenting the findings. So I will be providing a document that has the 100 or so criteria, and it's going to be up to the assessors to understand what those criteria are, what they mean, and uh, how to assess them when you're on a tour, and then and document those once you've completed the tour. And then submitting the materials. We have a jot form for you to fill out. So just like the certification or the providers have a jot form to fill out when they apply, there is a assessor jot form. So you just go online and you submit those answers, and that comes right to the certification lead and the chair. This is not intentional. The conflict of interest and a bunch of prickly pear. That was just random that I have that picture on there. So an assessor may not assess their own organization or operation, which should be clear to absolutely everybody. But I guess I have to say that you can't assess an organization that you have a financial stake in. Again, that may seem obvious. You can't assess an organization that is managed by an immediate family member. I would go so far as to say any family member, immediate, secondary. If they're if you have a vested interest in somebody you're related to getting certified, you would recuse yourself. But when you fill out the conflict of interest form, then you would be signing off on that. Uh, you may not assess an organization where you are employed, or an independent contractor, or serve on a board. Um, the the complimentary tour that you're taking is not compensation. It's not a gift. So that's not intended to influence you. That is the way that we do the certification process. But anything above and beyond that wouldn't be acceptable. And it's not up to the assessors to make any of the decisions based on the information that they've collected. It's simply up to the assessor to go out, do the assessment, and then hand off that information to the certification lead. This is just one criteria, and I'm going to jump from here to another criteria checklist here in just a second. But this is an example. This is my famous example. And Andrea, you just saw this the other day. But this is criteria number 122. This is one of the most important ones. Operation does not harass wildlife. Um, so it's when somebody does it, you know it, and it's either a yes or a no. There's no NA involved in that one really. Um, that yes, Christina.
Hi. Would you consider an airboat to harass wildlife then?
So an airboat, and tell me more.
I mean, I don't know. In general, just an airboat tour, it does, flush birds and things like that. Even if they're, I mean, they can be going a certain speed that lessens that. And so I don't know if there's some kind of, that's where, like you said, it's either yes or no, but I'm thinking like maybe, I don't know. So that's why I'm asking.
Well, yeah, and so you have to use your judgment when you're taking a tour. So if you are on a motorized boat and they get too close to a rookery, if you are on an airboat and they go blazing through a flock of birds, if you're on horseback and they spook wildlife with intention, um, so, those are all things where the operator should know better, and they should avoid that as best as they can. So, that question came up several years ago with an airboat provider. Full disclosure, it was mine. So, I am a certified provider. Um, when I went through the process the first time, my airboat, which is subcontracted with another company, the captain did drive his airboat too close to the birds when my guests were on the boat. And I got a thumbs down on my certification. This is the certification that I developed. So that's the way that it works. I have to adhere to the certification process. And we went back to every guide that was a captain with that subcontractor. We explained to them why you cannot do that. Uh, we said that if that happens again, you will lose the contract that we have with you. You will lose that business. So that's where the financial leverage comes in, and they did not do it again. Did they ever not do it again? Not on one of my tours, but the hope is that they understood and learned that lesson and did not do it again. So uh, it's a good question. And it has to be taken on a case by case basis for any opportunity, any tour. Sarah?
Hi. I am wondering, do you ever re-audit companies that you've given the certification to? Do you ever go back and check to make sure that they're still doing what they've committed to doing?
Yes. So uh, the current program that we have now um, is going to include uh, assessments throughout their 2-year certification, and then um, once they've once the certification is expired after 2 years, then they have to go through the process again. So they got to do the whole thing over again. But at that point, they've got their documentation. They understand how the criteria works and how the process works. So it should be fairly simple to do that. But yes, they will receive assessments throughout that time. We don't have a set number. Uh, just at some point during that time, we will come out. Did I get both questions? Did I answer both? I forget who
Yes,
asked me
thank
that
you.
question about the airboat. Was that Christina?
Yes.
Okay, so that made sense. Okay.
Yes, thank you.
Yep. And in my case, we had to go through that process again. So it delayed it, and we had to have somebody come back out. And thankfully, it did not happen again the second time around. So uh, lesson learned, and that's how we change. That's how we grow and get better as an industry. So we've had other airboat operators who have applied for the process, and I'm always skeptical because I know how some of them are, but I would encourage them to do that, because if airboat operators can change, then anybody can change. As far as the bonus, operator encourages others to refrain from feeding wildlife outside of operation through educational programs or brochures. So this is something that if during the tour, uh, your guide explains the importance of not feeding bread to birds, not throwing marshmallows to alligators. There's a variety of different examples, or if it's actually in your collateral, in your brochures and things, then you would receive a bonus for that one. If you don't, then it's a no. So it's important for providers to go through this criteria checklist so they understand ways that they can educate the public when they're doing their programs. If someone is calling themselves an eco tour, if they truly believe in our mission and they believe in the idea of sustainable ecotourism, then these are the things that they should be putting out there for the public when they're conducting their tours. So that's the end of that slideshow. I've got a few minutes. I can take more questions if there's more questions. And then if anyone is still interested, and hopefully wants to be an assessor. I have my checklist with some more samples that we can go through so you have an idea of what you'd be looking at when you go out. Any more questions? Okay. So I'm going to stop sharing this screen. Share this screen. All right. So I just wanted to, for your sake, just show this portion of, can y'all see what I'm looking at here? Yep. Okay. And Danielle has her hand raised.
Hi, yeah, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Awesome. This is all really helpful and wonderful. So thank you for having this. I'm super interested. I was curious on if you guys have a like a radius distance of say somebody lives, in like Gainesville, Florida. Is there like a specific distance that you would kind of cap it off of where you can assess?
Ideally, I would like to keep it within the regions that we showed on the map earlier,
Gotcha.
just so you're not, spending a lot of gas and going too far, especially if we have other assessors that might be closer by.
Great, thank you.
Sure. Christina?
Thanks. Based on that, I'm just curious if you're already going somewhere, you're already planning to be in an area, then would that maybe just be a case by case basis in case somebody's, up for certification in that area while you're there?
So are you asking if we have any certifications that are coming up?
No, I'm saying I'm in Gainesville, but let's say I'm going to the Keys for 2 weeks and I know that. Then you guys might have someone that's in the certification process that needs to be assessed. So I'm just wondering if it would be useful for us to reach out and say,
Sure.
no,
I wouldn't object to that.
even though it's outside of the region.
I mean, if you're going to be in the area,
Yeah.
yeah, as long as you're not going out of your way to do something, especially if you're coming from Gainesville going to the Keys.
Yeah. I'm not, but I wish I was. So I'm going to keep this in mind. Thank you.
Oh, okay. Right. Okay. So if you look at the section right here where it says certification checklist, so the checklist 193 criteria is broken down into 12 sections. We have workplace standards that focuses on how providers treat their staff. Are they paying them well? Are they hiring locally? Things along those lines. Section 2 is the natural area focus. So when you're on the tour, are you spending time more obviously in nature than not? Are you given time to uh, enjoy silence or quiet? Or do you have alone time when you're out there on the tour? Things along those lines. Um, Interpretation and education are, and this is where the certification lead would document more of this, but are there tours that are established for special needs? Uh, do they have documentation for staff training? Do they encourage ecotourism principles to their staff? Emergency preparedness, again, that is some of it is documentation. Others, it's something that you actually might experience on a tour. If you have rain, lightning, any weather conditions that the operator has to respond to, how do they respond to it? So there will be criteria in the document involving that. Environmental practices, um, let's see, minimum impact practices. And this is where you've got big sections that get trimmed right out if you're not dealing with somebody who is a fishing tour, a biking tour, camping tour. So if the tour that you're assessing is just doing a kayak tour, then you're going to focus just on page 25, section 5, non-motorized vessels. Contribution to conservation. Again, this is going to be more on the certification lead side, but how much does the organization give back to local communities, to conservation organizations? Cultural sensitivity. So this can be regarding the Miccosukee, the Seminole. This can be extinct cultures like the Tequesta or the Calusa. It can be about riverboat captains. It's how the provider respects the indigenous people or the local communities that have been in the area, and are they promoted? Are they considered when programs are being developed, and are they employed in the operation? Marketing and promotion, minimal waste, brochures with nature, with appropriate tours exhibited on the materials. Sustainability communication and reporting. Honestly, I'd have to look and see what that one is involved. That's a relatively new one. And then guest satisfaction. So, do they engage with the guest during, before, and after to get an idea of how they're experiencing the tour, and how do they react to it, especially if there's any issues. So those are the main 12 categories. Those are the 12 categories. And I'm going to skip down to the second section, natural area focus. So this is what the document will look like in part. You, as assessors, or if you wish to be a certified lead, would get a specific document that is going to have just the criteria that you need to look at. So there's 193 here. Only about 100 are going to be ones that you're going to take a look at. So, for example, number 4, a majority of the customer's time, that's going to be the assessor, is spent exploring natural areas. That's pretty obvious. The tour provides opportunities for the customer to directly experience the natural environment through sensory engagement, such as observing landscapes and wildlife, listening to natural sounds. So these are the examples that you're going to be assessing. You would take the document that you receive, you're going to read through it, you're going to make sure that you understand each of those and what that means. Some of them may sound a little bit technical. If they do, that's fine. You can talk to the certification lead, or you can talk to me, and I can explain what's expected of those. But for the most part, the assessor's criteria are relatively easy to understand. Let me see. Let me grab a couple others here that are appropriate for assessors. So number 12, I mean, that one's a bit abstract. Operator communicates clear interpretive themes and conservation messages. So when you go on the tour, do they explain to you about what you're going to experience? Do they tell you about the conservation of the area, the land that you're going to be on or immersed in? Is that woven into the educational part of the tour? Number 13, this one's a toughie. Information shared with customers is expected to be accurate and evidence-based. people make mistakes. Uh, there are uh, there are so many examples of these myths that continue to linger out there. And I'm going to give examples. Manatees. I don't know if anyone's ever heard of this. Manatees were brought from the old world in the ballast of ships, and they're not native to Florida. Has anybody heard that one? Okay, you've heard that. That's insane. It just doesn't make sense to me. Like, why would anyone do that? We've got dugong bones here. We've got manatee bones in the as fossils. So sometimes people create these ideas in their head and they just continually repeat those. So if somebody gets that wrong, it's okay for us to say, these are things that can be remedied. You can change how you narrate your tour, but it is imperative that you actually give the correct information. So lots of good ones that I could give, but I don't want to take your time. Um, so yeah, yes, Andrea.
Um, it's as an assessor, is it appropriate for you to film any of your experience?
I don't see why not. That's an interesting question. That's never come up. Um,
I
you're,
love experiential videos, just like personally when I'm out and about, and I know I would probably do that if I were on a tour,
yeah. I mean, I would take
myself,
pictures, I
just
would take video.
Mhm.
But as far as
Okay.
an assessor, I don't see an issue with that because you're documenting. Um, you want to be able to experience it and recall that information, and what better way than having a photo or video of that. So you're experiencing it just as any customer would. So I think that that's fine. Is your hand up, Emily?
Yeah, just a 2-minute warning. It's almost 8:30.
Oh, that's fine. I just wanted to give you an example of some of these, and I think I'm going to stop there because we could probably have a whole another discussion about this. Or basically, what I can do is I can provide the document to anybody that applies and wants to be an assessor, and then if they have questions, then they can just come back to me and we can talk about those questions. But I'm going to stop sharing, and then I'm going to take a look at the chat, and if anybody wants to ask questions, now's a great time to do so. And our certification leads also volunteers. Yes. So to be the ideal certification program is an organization that is separate from Florida Sea and Florida Sea's board. So volunteer assessors, volunteer certification leads, reporting to a certification chair is an acceptable form of that process. So that is the case. Yep. Let's see. Yes, we can further define the content of the document along the way. Great questions, Andrea. Okay. Were there any other questions that I missed? Oh yeah, Carolyn, that was a plug from a long time ago. So I'll plug it real quick before I forget, but July 15th, what's that smell? I love that. That's the topic, 7:30. And it's the next webinar series. So make sure that you click on that and register there. Um, I want to be there for that one. So if we don't have any more questions, I'm going to send out a an application form for everybody, and I'll just gather the information if anybody wants to be an assessor, and then we will go from there. How's that sound?
Sounds
Great.
good.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
All right, very good. Well, thank you all for spending an hour of your evening, and thank you, Emily, for cutting me off because I would have kept going. All
Thanks,
right. Well,
everyone. Thanks for
yep.
coming.
Thank you all. Have a good evening.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Pete.
good night.